if I could go back and change anything in our practice and the way we built this, is I definitely would have spent more time with either a consultant like yourself or some more infrastructure teams. I think when you're starting out and before you're super, super busy, the more you can build that infrastructure and grow out, the better you're going to do.
Hello and welcome to Beauty and the Biz, where we talk about the business and marketing side of plastic surgery. I'm Maley, author of Your Aesthetic Practice, What Your Patients Are Saying, as well as consultant to plastic surgeons to get them more patients and more profits. Now, today's special guest is Dr. Johnny Franco. He's a board-certified plastic surgeon based in Austin, Texas, and the founder of Austin Plastic Surgeon with 3 locations and multiple surgeons. Now, originally from New Mexico, Dr. Franco received his medical training from the University of Texas Medical Branch of Galveston, then completed a university residency in Taiwan and a fellowship in Belgium, which we'll talk more about. Now, currently, Dr. Franco is clinical faculty at the University of Texas Dell Medical School, where he helps train the next generation of surgeons, and he serves as a peer reviewer for major surgical publications like the Aesthetic Journal and the Annals of Plastic Surgery. He's also a national trainer and educator, speaking at major conferences and teaching in specialized courses for the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, as well as the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. So with that, Dr. Franco, welcome to Beauty and the Biz.
Catherine, thanks for having me. Super excited. I think this is so relevant, so helpful. I'll tell you, this was probably the area I felt most unprepared for before going into practice. You're so focused on how to perform a surgery that you don't even realize how to get patients in to help them along this journey or make the experience great for them.
That's exactly how this came about, because as a consultant, I was out there consulting going, boy, you guys didn't get any of this. So I was giving like quick MBA courses, on the fly. But anyway, so can you please recap your journey? One thing we like to do is talk about the journey from university or residency or fellowship, and then how do you jump into solo practice? What was that journey like?
Yeah, I think mine was a little extended, and maybe because I wasn't quite ready to extend my wings and right after residency. So I did my residency at St. Louis University and then wanted to do some additional training. So one of the kind of cool facts about me is I actually had emailed Fuqian Wei, who had written a book on microsurgery, and just reached out to them. And he's like, yeah, come spend 6 weeks with me. So I went to Taiwan. They put me up in the hospital, hung out, just learned so much. Learned a lot about efficiency. It was kind of interesting of how they only did like 4 sutures. Everybody did the things the same way, and really from how they do so many surgeries in a very efficient, like consistent and different than some of our systems in America, but definitely some very valuable tips of running a very tight, efficient practice business. And then I was definitely fortunate enough to spend about 9 months doing an aesthetic fellowship in Miami with Miami Plastic Surgery, who actually had a show on TLC. And they were actually very good at marketing and getting stuff out there. One of my mentors there, said, you got to make a big deal about everything, and really has led to the social media thing. Because if you're not excited about it, why are patients going to be excited? And so I think those were some of the things that helped. And then at some point, just deciding, gosh, there's so many things that I want to do and accomplish. And the best way for me to do it is just to go out and kind of carve my own path. And that's what really kind of stimulated me to start my own practice.
Why Austin?
Oh, I'll tell you, when I was a medical student in Galveston, they actually would send some of the students to Austin for your final 2 clinical years. I actually absolutely loved my time. I would come back for probably 3 or 4 days a year as a vacation. I just had a lot of friends. It was just a city I absolutely fell in love with. Such a unique kind of, back then it was a secret about how cool Austin is. Not really a secret anymore, but it's just a chance. It's this diamond in the rough, or I guess back in the day, where you have, with the university, you have a lot of very educated people, you have a lot of opportunities, but also a very chance to, everybody can just be themselves. There's this very unique culture here for a city that's grown in so many well-thought, well-spoken practitioners, but everybody gets along. Everybody's willing to help. It's just a very keep Austin weird vibe, which I absolutely love.
So let's do, can you please describe your practice? Because it is now 3 locations, several surgeons. There's a PA, a couple nurses, a esthetician. Can you describe that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Our practice is about 7 or 8 years old now when I started my own practice. So still in its infancy. I would think a little bit. Grew from a small 700 square foot office that I was subleasing from somebody else just to get started, and then slowly grew from there. So now we have 4 surgeons, 3 different locations. We have 3 different injectors, some estheticians, wellness team, and just kind of really diversify. I think a couple of the big things that we've tried to do is bring in people with different specialties, different passions. I think, there's a couple different thoughts on that. You can either, have a palace built on one thing that everybody does really well, which I think definitely works well in breast reconstruction and other things. Sometimes in aesthetics, it's challenging because most people didn't want to finish first in their class to be the third fiddle in a practice. And so, I'd say that's been one of the biggest challenges, is really trying to make a home, a base for everybody, where everybody feels like they can grow, they can expand, they can make a name for themselves inside of a crowded practice, which is probably a podcast for a different day, but its own challenge and opportunity all in the same.
But how, you haven't been out that long, quite frankly. How did you figure out? Because the more pieces you add, the more complexity increases, and then the more you need more clarity, more structure, more organization. How did you know how to do that?
Number one, I would say that every day is still learning for me and definitely been a challenge. I do think one of the things that definitely helped me the most to really kind of jump started or build the business was the marketing side. I think being in Miami for my fellowship, I think having the opportunity to be under that group that had a TV show that kind of knew how to get their name out there, I think that was super helpful. I'll tell you, one of the things that was interesting when I first moved to Austin, and this is for any of the young residents listening and so forth, is really being true to who you are, what you love to do. I first moved to Austin after being in Miami, and I'll still remember this. One of the first reps I met with was like, it was a breast implant rep. Was like, oh, what do you do? I was like, I do a lot of lipo, BBLs, kind of, more extreme body contouring. And they're like, oh, well, you're gonna have to find something else to do. Nobody else, nobody wants that. Nobody is looking for that here in Austin. And this is back, in 2015 or whatever. And I was like, well, it is what I do. So I guess if nobody wants it, I'll be eating spam or figuring something out, but I'm going to do what I do. I'm not going to change because of what's here. And what was interesting, honestly, that niche that supposedly nobody wanted, nobody was offering it. So it gave me such a huge chance to explode. I was super active on social media. So people came to us. I think, being able to do what you do and passionate, it resonated, especially on social media. And I think that's one of the things that people are so afraid to misspeak. I think so afraid to be criticized. I think so afraid to, make waves that sometimes you tend to hold back and you don't kind of do the things that you're super passionate about. And I think when you're passionate, stuff tends to figure itself out. And I think that was one of the biggest springboards for me.
So do you still do BBLs?
Yeah, it's still the number one procedure that I do personally. Breast Dog is catching up pretty quickly, but still do a ton of it. I think that's been one of the nice things about our practice growing, is definitely had a chance to kind of work on some innovation, some new concepts, some new ideas. Circling back to your point, though, I do think if I could go back and change anything in our practice and the way we've built this, is I definitely would have spent more time with either a consultant like yourself or some more infrastructure teams. I think when you're starting out and before you're super, super busy, the more you can build that infrastructure and grow out, the better you're going to do. The busier you are, the harder it is to go back to it. I think if you don't have a good infrastructure, it's really, one, costly. It's also, two, very challenging once you already have some systems in place to really build that foundation. And the better foundation, standard operating procedures you can have from day one or from the beginning, the easier it is to grow and replicate that from place to place.
Yeah, I highly recommend cleaning the house before inviting people over, because otherwise you're just going to have a big chaotic mess and it's going to hurt your reputation and all of that. But back to the market demand, Austin is a funny place. They're much more conservative. Miami is the wild, wild west. So I would almost market like this isn't a Miami BBL, like it's it's an Austin BBL, I mean, people are much more understated when you say in Austin than they are in Miami.
I think they definitely are, but I think there's definitely a lot to be said about just being excited and passionate. And I think, some of the getting into the details, it happens kind of organically as you kind of express what you do and get into these things. But I think the thing that really has helped our practice is we have several providers that are really excited. One of the biggest compliments I get is when patients come into the office and they're like, "You're just like you are on social media." And I think that's super important because, you being me, Catherine, and me being you isn't going to work because we're not the same. Even if they come in, they feel like it's not real. I'm never going to be as good at you as me. And sometimes people are trying to be someone else and they wonder why they don't resonate with people. And even our own practice, our facial plastic surgeon, he's kind of got this nutty, quirky professor vibe stuff, but he does it so well. He owns it so well. And it just, tends to resonate with patients. But, it's just about kind of owning the way in our own quirks that make stuff fun, but also educational at the same time.
Well, what I've noticed your business model is everything under the umbrella. One umbrella, anything you want, non-surgical, surgical, weight loss, FFS, you offer the gamut. And that also, if you can handle it operationally, do it. But most practices can't. They need a lot more focus because otherwise they're everything to everybody. But you have all the I just don't know how you did this so quickly. How did you put together so many providers? How do you make sense of keeping 4 surgeons happy under one roof is frankly a miracle. Any tips on working with surgeons?
I'll tell you the biggest thing is we definitely do working interviews. I want it to be a two-way interview, so we have them come spend some time with us. I tell people it's like a marriage. I mean, you really, really have to feel like we're doing well. I have them spend time with the office without me. Whether it's our patient care coordinators, for newer surgeons with other surgeons that are not me, with our MAs, with our staff, because I want them to get a real feel, be able to ask questions without me around, because the good, bad, and ugly. I mean, we all have stuff that I'm sure drives our team crazy, and they need to make sure that that's something they can live with. But the one thing that I think has been really helpful for helping our providers thrive is really finding a niche for each of them. We have one surgeon that really owns a lot of the FFS, facelifts, rhinoplasties. That's his kingdom. He does breast dogs and other things, but it's something that he feels like he owns in the practice. He does really well. I do some facelifts and stuff, but that's something that he really holds dear in heart. We have another one that does a lot of breast. Our newer surgeon does migraine surgeries and a few other things. So also gives them a chance to take some leadership roles in the office, which helps diversify, to your point, because if it's just you, I think that's really challenging. And then even from like our injectors, we have one that really has dived into the regenerative revolution and some of the fat fillers and other things. One of our other injectors is really taken lower body rejuvenation. She's the number one cellulite user in the country. And so I think that has helped us diversify, giving people some leadership, which I think has been super helpful. It is. If people aren't busy, I think that leads to problems. I think giving people something that they can own and help is great. And I think if you can't diversify some of it, if everything has to go through you, especially when you get to the private equity world, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about this, but then you have a lot of key man risk if everything has to be centered or pushed through one person, and that's not attractive to some of these companies.
Well, and in addition to that, you decided to open 3 different locations. They're nearby. How far is San Antonio from Austin?
It's only about 60 miles. It's about a 2-hour drive.
Okay, it is further than I thought. So what are the pros and cons of having the locations? Because again, that just adds to the complexity of a practice.
And I'll tell you, for anyone listening, no question, I think adding a different location is harder than adding another provider. If you don't have those SOPs really nailed down, that is really, really challenging. If you don't have a checks and balance system, that can be really, really challenging. because you really want to make sure that the Chick-fil-A model, I mean, it's got to be the same customer service every single place. They have to feel like they're getting the exact same service level no matter where they step into. The thought behind it is one, we actually were able to buy a building, a location near the Domain in Austin, which is absolutely phenomenal, but there's no more space to expand. So we just truly had outgrown it. When we looked at our numbers of where our patients were coming from, we just had such a massive amount of patients coming from San Antonio. So that's what led to it. And I think Texas is a little bit of a unique situation because you have a lot of, Texas is such a big state, but a lot of the patients outside of the major metropolitans are either going to go to Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, or Houston for their aesthetic surgery. In this day and age where people can search for someone that specializes in BBL, someone that specializes in facelifts. And so, I think it's given us opportunities to pull from different areas, which has been great. And then been able to expand some of our other services.
What about the reporting, the tracking, and the accountability? How difficult has it been to manage the resources that go into that?
I think that's been the hardest thing to build in. We've been recently really kind of merged our CRM and EMR. I think a CRM is absolutely priceless. We probably have once a week a visitor come visit the office. And the thing is, and I'm sure you go through this all the time, you can spend a ton of money on marketing, but if you don't actually know where those patients are going, if you're not tracking them, if you're not actually following up with them, you can spend a ton of money and see zero return, and you don't even know what's driving patients, what's not. So one, I think a CRM is huge. A CRM that you can create to seamlessly integrate with your EMR is massive in terms of a time save to be able to actually calculate how much it costs you per lead that comes in, what's your actual booking rate, so you can back into, I want to do 50 surgeries a month. Okay, this is what I need to spend because this is what it costs to get this many people in, to book this many, to math into those numbers. And it's funny because it's something we talk a lot about in our team is the math has to math to back into the number of procedures or treatments you want to do. And I think that's super, super interesting. The other thing in terms of reporting accountability that I've been super proud of that we built this year, we had other versions, but nothing so formal. Even in our team for commissions and so forth, almost everybody in our entire office organization gets a commission. And so whether it's front desk, MAs, something based on productivity and a few different metrics, but everybody gets a report card. And so at the end of every month, and so like let's take providers, for example, it shows them year after year for the month, how many appointments, how much revenue, how much profit. And so, and then it breaks down like their, revenue per hour, so forth, so that every month they get to see their entire breakdown. And then it's got, about 5 charts of some of the things that we've kind of seen as the most kind of meaningful for them to get a quick glance. So they're not only just getting their like, oh, hey, you made this much, but they're able to kind of track it. And then there's kind of like a rabbit line stuff of like, here's my goal. Here's where I need to be for the year if I'm on pace. And I think that's been super helpful to give people a bigger picture of what's going on, where they're at.
Well, what happens is they start feeling the ownership of that.
Mm-hmm.
They realize now they're a big piece of the pie, especially the front desk. They get treated the worst. They're out there by themselves, handing all the crap that the public's coming at them. And they don't get a lot of respect. And I think, oh, dear Lord, first of all, no one's going to meet you unless they can get past her. So I hope you have a really good front desk and train them, but give them some metrics that they're moving towards and pay them for it. I think that's fantastic. So does everybody have their own commission structure? And is there any infighting about she gets more than I get? Any of that?
We have not had that. I mean, most of the commission structures are built in for like roles. So like, our surgical coordinators, they all have the same commission structure. Our sales team that handles all the leads, they all have their same commission structure. So we do try to put that in categories to minimize some of that. No question, there's some people that want to move up into new roles, but again, it's super easy to be like, hey, like here's the metrics, here's where you rank in terms of this. So if a spot opens up in these other ones, we do it based on merit, and so I think that makes it more matter of fact. I do agree 100% with you. It gives them ownership of where these. Because sometimes in the past, I've made commissions and other things too complicated where people don't even know where they're coming from. They don't feel like they have control, like you said, ownership of those. And if they don't know where it's coming from, there's no motivation to achieve it because they don't even know what they're doing that's directly moving that needle up or down. So I couldn't agree with you more on that. And the other point you made is training. I think it's easy to be upset that people don't do a good job on the phone, but are you spending time role playing with them? Are you listening to calls? Are you giving them meaningful feedback? Just saying, hey, Catherine, you didn't do a good job on the phone. That doesn't help you. That doesn't make you better. You're just like, okay, and so, hey, Catherine, you didn't ask for an appointment after that call. Or Catherine, I listened to 10 calls, 4 of them, you didn't introduce yourself. Remember, we always got to get, and so you can give them real things that do that. And I think that's going to be helpful. There's actually some AI programs that we've been playing with. The HIPAA compliance has been a holdup for us implementing some that actually you can give your full scorecard on and then integrate it in so that at the end of each month, it can actually score people on what they're missing on those things. So I think AI is going to make that much easier for smaller practices.
The smartest practices know a big part of their practice growth comes from retention, referrals, and repeat treatments, not just from new internet stranger leads. That's why I created the KISS Loyalty Club, a done-for-you system that keeps your patients returning, referring, reviewing, sharing you on social media, and completing surgery. Discover how KISS can grow your own practice revenues by visiting kissloyalty.com today.
Yeah, we're going to talk about AI in a little bit because I knew you were going to be involved in that. Regarding, let's say, weight loss, because one thing you have been very good at that you mentioned is the marketing. You must be the marketing engine there that feeds all of this. I'm going to assume, you're just a really good marketer.
I definitely think that I drive a lot of it. We do have hired in-house social media people that video edit and do things like that. So definitely have a lot of people in-house that do help.
For sure. But you have a marketing machine there that's feeding all of these people. That's why you can have 4 surgeons, a whole lot of providers. You can have commission structures. Like there is some structure to all of that, it's not just happening by magic. Like you can tell you're a really good marketer and you're everywhere. So we're not going to talk about marketing yet, but that's the secret to this. That's why you can have 3 locations and several surgeons. Although I might say, when you have all those pieces, is there an operations manager watching the numbers, making sure there's no funny money things going on? How are you controlling all of this?
So it's a couple things for sure. So we do have a operations manager. We actually outsource some of our CFO to a company called Maven that has done a phenomenal job in terms of outlining all the reports, commissions, building these reports for us. That again takes time off my plate stuff, and then we look at areas where we can, because to that point too, just generating revenue doesn't mean that the practice is profitable or the practice is doing well. And I think people forget that because even if you're making $30 million, if you're spending 35, you're not doing well, and I think sometimes don't realize how much money's coming and going. And sometimes you can actually decrease that 30 to 25, but you decrease your spend, to all the way down to 15, you're actually net ahead. And those are some of the things that I think are hard for people to learn or know even where they can make the biggest differences. So no question, I think that's been a huge addition for us. And over the last year, helped us actually cut our spend by several million, which was huge for us, from a profit at the end of the year, and things like that. Obviously, we have a larger practice, so little moves in the needle tend to make big differences. But on the flip side, wrong moves in the other direction are very costly.
So what would you say is the biggest challenge of running a solo practice like yours with so many moving parts?
I think finding a solid administrative leadership team. I think building a solid leadership team that can help not only build those standard operating procedures, but it's one thing to have them, but then hold people accountable. Because if you don't hold people accountable, not only is the business not running efficiently, you honestly will start to build animosity in the staff. Because if Catherine's coming in and she's showing up on time every day, and I show up 15, 20 minutes late every day, nobody says anything. At some point, Catherine's gonna be like, why am I showing up on time? Nobody cares. And so I think those are the things that are huge. The one of the things that I'll tell you that was the hardest for me to do, and I think for a lot of providers, and love to hear your thought on this, is that we went into this to help people and do those type of stuff. I tended to be the opposite, of the theory of hire slow, fire fast, and so it would tend to hold on to people and be like, we're going to give them chances, we're going to coach them, we're going to do this. It becomes such a time sink. In the end, they're not a great fit. If you're frustrated, they're probably just as equally frustrated at not doing this. If they're struggling this much, they're probably not going to grow in the company, so that you're not long-term helping them at all. And I think that's something that over the last year and a half, we've gone a lot better. If somebody's just not a good fit, we make a move away. A lot of times we'll even just pay them out even our front desk stuff, 2 weeks a month, depending whatever it is stuff, just to make sure they're in a good spot. But it just, those things I think really hurt the practice when you're holding on to people that are just not a good fit and consume a massive amount of your time and whoever is your operations office manager. And this is true whether you're a 3-person office or a 300-person office.
My overall rule is hire the right person if at all possible. Hire the right person and then give them the training and the structure they need, and then hold them accountable. Check in to make sure they're doing what you think they're doing, because oftentimes what you think and what's really happening are two different things. And then they have a 3 strikes rule thing. If I've given you the tools and given you the training, and we've talked about this 3 times, you're just not, and when you're starting to feel uneasy, I mean, our gut always tells us this doesn't feel right, but we're going to keep trying and trying. And as I get older, I'm sure my patience is thinner now than before, and it's just not a good fit. So I'm not firing you. I'm freeing you to go somewhere else where you're a better fit, because it's just not a good fit here, period. And then the minute you do that, what happens? The staff says, well, that took you a while, and I mean, we all know that. Everyone's been through this. Everyone's not a fit, we're just looking for the ones who are. Or also what happens is some go rogue after a while. Let's say they've been there a long time and now they become the prima donna, and we have that. So it's just never ending. It just is. We humans are just a tough group.
But how many times do you go to an office and like a patient care coordinator, a nurse, an MA who's been there for a long time, within 5 minutes in the practice, this person is not helping and they're probably really hurting this. But, the practice is so afraid to make a move because they think that this is going to destroy their practice or do something. And then when you finally, and at some point, you can't you can't make a horse drink, right? So at some point you can say, hey, here's what I see. Here's what I would recommend. Ultimately, they have to make the decision what they want to do with their practice. And I'm sure you have times where people will call you 2 months later and be like, hey, Catherine, I finally took your advice, did this. You're right. The sun did come up the next day and our practice is still doing fine.
A big problem is they were there at the beginning. So most of the surgeons really appreciate loyalty, especially if they've had problems with dishonesty. They can't bring the wife in, they've had that office manager for 20 years. And I say, just so you know, there's an opportunity cost to that. She's loyal, but ineffective. Just so this is what this is costing you. And they just can't help it. And I say, well, then reposition them or you've got to do something. If you're trying to grow, then know that we're not going to be able to grow this. We've got a problem here, And
that was actually one of the hardest things as we grew rapidly, because at the beginning we had kind of the 7 iron that could just do everything, right? Like somebody was a patient care coordinator, a MA, they were rooming people. As we grew, then we had someone that just needed to do patient care coordinator, we needed someone that just needed to do lead, someone that was just an MA. And then as we grew more, and some people handle it really well, that like, okay, well now I'm just doing patient care coordinator, this is what I do really, really well, now I can thrive and focus on it instead of doing other things. On the flip side, we definitely had people that felt like we were taking things away and they were being demoted, even though the piece of the pie of what they were actually doing, and they didn't understand, like, this is what you do absolutely best, just do what you do best all the time. But some people could never accept that. And at some point, you just kind of have to part ways, because as you grow, you can't have everybody doing everything. That's so inefficient and just not practical.
Yeah. How much of your time is spent on HR and admin, or have you gotten really good at delegating?
That's an area of improvement for me. I would say probably Sunday tends to be my biggest admin day, and then mornings before surgery. So I'll usually try and get to the office by 6:15. So usually 6:15 to 7 is my admin, and then Sundays. So I'd say probably still about 15% of my time is admin. We definitely have a full-time HR, operations, and then clinic manager. So that's helped a lot. So at least it kind of gets streamlined before it gets to me.
Back to AI. Have you found that AI is going to be helpful in the admin department or in some of the business functions there?
I think all of the above in terms of some of these things. I honestly think for small practices, especially over the next year or two, it's going to help small practices compete with these larger groups, these private equities, because some of their things is we can make these efficiencies, we can build these stuff. And I think AI is going to let people work very efficiently. I'll tell you, even when I kind of data dump stuff, the AI helps me really clean up stuff in a super efficient way, find the things that I need. No question, even like building out or tweaking some of our standard operating procedures, it's made it so much more efficient. I can upload our procedure and be like, hey, these are the things I want to change, organize this, change that. And it does it almost instantly for me. And so, and then we can send it to our attorneys to review and so forth. So I think it's going to be huge from a patient follow-up, I think, and patient acquisition marketing. I think it's been massive already. We've already implemented an AI agent in our practice. We'll probably keep doing more and more of that. The place we started, just because I felt like at this point they were lost leads already, because there is some training and some coaching and it doesn't always go perfectly smooth to start off with. Anybody who we'd reached out to and had already kind of was in the kind of long-term nurture, we just had the AI agent working on those leads to see if it could generate. And at this point, it was, adding an extra 15, 20 appointments a week, it's huge when you're already, just to put in perspective, we get about 3,000 leads a month. And so, it was definitely, there's a big pull for it to go from, but you think about it, those are people you've already paid for those leads, you've already worked for. And so to be able to pick up some of those are absolutely huge.
So the business structure seems to be, we offer everything to everybody. I don't know if you have a defined demographic, but you offer a lot of services, non-surgical, surgical, skincare, weight loss. The weight loss, is that a big part of your practice?
It's definitely a big part of the practice from a number of patients. Surgery is still our number one revenue generator.
Is it a good feeder to surgery?
It's a very good feeder to surgery and a very good feeder to the med spa.
And that's the whole point. If you're going to offer these services personally, as a surgeon, I would say, as long as it's feeding me to surgery, that makes sense. Otherwise, all I'm doing is trying to make the PE people happy, and I'm trying to offer other services and that I don't care about. I don't want to manage these people. It's not enough. Like per hour, I can make a lot more as a surgeon than I'll offer all of this other. So is that your business model, is to build this up? So number one, you're not the sole revenue generator. And number two, you have something else to fall back on?
100%, because I think a couple things that you touched on is, one, it was interesting. I was at Octane this week, and the private equity was and obviously this was a small group of some private equity heads, but they actually don't value pure GLP medication patients very high, and can actually devalue some if that's a sole thing, without some process in the system where these people are moving to long-term value of other services. And so, they were talking about, if that's going to be a big part of your business model, at this point, you have to show that what you're doing to retain those patients for them to really value it high, which I thought was interesting. But that's always been our thought with the wellness thing, is that this is for us and them coming through us. This is a journey for them. That wellness is just the start of this. I do think there's going to be this whole wellness wave. And I think being able to take people from the beginning of their journey and help guide them to the end of this. And the end, I think surgery is just in the middle of this, really, whether it's weight loss, whether it's some of these other, peptide stuff that I think are coming to the market this year with some of the FDA changes, surgery in the middle, and then helping them, with kind of not only living longer, but living better. You see some of this, what I call Ozempification of aesthetics, really young patients with mature issues. And it's up to us to educate, speak to them. I think it's going to be easier. You see companies like Galderma and Allergan getting into these. So they're going to push a lot of money into direct to consumer advertising. Galderma's already started some of its trainings for injectors around the rapid weight loss space. And so with obviously the biostimulants and Sculptra, you probably saw Allergan did a $2 billion licensing agreement with I think the Denmark company on a medication, still a few years away, but they're already making plans. So it's not going away from the aesthetic industry.
Well, you know what? I think it's actually revived the surgical part of the PE's interest, because PE didn't really care about the surgery. They cared about the recurring revenues from injectables and the non-surgical side. But if you think about it, now, if you had the weight loss, that is a really good feeder to surgery. So that does make that more attractive now. I think that's brilliant. Good job.
Yeah, brilliant. And these are big surgeries, right? Most of these weight loss, they're not your 1 hour breast talk. A lot of these are, I mean, I've never, and you've had some phenomenal guests on your show in the recent episodes I've seen, but I mean, body lifts, thigh lifts, and these are all big surgeries and typically multiple surgeries, right? So, I mean, these aren't little ticket items.
They're huge. I mean, full on body lifts that have to be taken one area at a time. It's multiple procedures. It's a big deal.
So patients tend to be super happy and loyal. I mean, they're so excited about this journey. I mean, and those also tend to not be the price shoppers, right? Somebody that's getting a full body lift, they're not arguing about whether I can get a breast aug for $5,000 or something else. That's not their goal when they're looking at this total body transformations.
Yeah. So when we look at differentiating, because I love to talk about marketing too, because none of this counts unless you can get the people through the door. So how do you differentiate now that Austin has really become a competitive arena? How are you doing that? How are you setting yourself apart from everyone else over there?
One, I truly believe content is king. I don't think you can make enough content. I don't think you can educate people enough. I think number one is being true. But, I tell all of our providers, pick something that you absolutely love, because if you're not passionate about it, don't do it. Don't talk about it. That's a waste of everybody's time. That's a waste of airspace. But when you find something you love, just take each little piece of it. And I think that's what, we tend to hear from patients is, most of them that come in and be like, I've been following you for years, and they're like, I would tell you, I was at a football game here in Texas, obviously, and I was in the lounge, and this gentleman comes up to me when I'm in line, get my hot dog, which I shouldn't be eating, and he's like, hey, I want to introduce you to my wife and so forth. Do you mind coming to our table and saying hi when you're done? And just out of the blue, that's all I said. I was like, okay, finish my thing, and I go there and introduces me, and she's like, hey, I just want to say hi. We've been following you for 3 years. We've collectively lost 250 pounds. We watch you every morning. And it was just, kind of amazing and heartwarming that they saw me out of the stadium of 100,000 people and took the time to come say hi and share their story. So I think a lot of time with social media and some of these things, people think they're doing it and it's not making a difference. Just because you don't hear it or don't see it right away doesn't mean it doesn't. But you also have to be consistent. You have to be passionate and excited about it. And I think those are the things that really resonate. My team knows I hate stock images, just posting stock images. If you haven't built any value or trust from patients, just put in an ad, $100 off filler. Like, okay, so that's not helping your brand. That's not helping your image. That's not educating people of why you're better. Now you're only trying to attract people who are looking for a discount. That's not a key to a long-term success. I don't mind giving discounts to people who have been super loyal to me and have done multiple procedures and things like that. 100% I'm willing to do something for them, but not just to try and bring new people in that only are going to change with that. So I think those are some of the keys for us.
Well, if you start that relationship with a discount, you're already in trouble,
It's hard to move the other way.
Yeah, they came for that and they'll leave for that. So I always say, why are we giving the discounts to the strangers? Why don't we give them to the people they've given us money, they'll give us more. Trust me, I'm a patient. I will care for the rest of my life how my appearance is. I will keep throwing money at it. It's just so interesting. If you think longer term, it's so logical. Hang on to the patients you have. They'll bring their friends. Don't worry about that part. And they'll keep spending more money with you, just take care of them.
And this is where I think AI has helped with a marketing standpoint and even it, with some of the apps now, it's very easy to create content. You don't have to be super tech savvy to make really nice things. If you don't have ideas, you can put it in a chat and say, hey, I really want to talk more about facelifts. What are the 10 most common questions about facelifts that I can answer? And now Google indexes Reels, and those are great. The way the AI search now does, I think that's interesting and being very question specific. So I think there's opportunities there. If somebody's listening, if you haven't talked to your marketing team about what they're doing to help you with AI search, I think that's an opportunity to make sure a conversation you have. And just like we talk about tracking your office staff, your revenue stuff, if you're not tracking your marketing spend, your ROI, where that's going, the long-term value, I mean, you're missing out, because I think a lot of times people just think, oh, if I just spend money, I'll drive more patients in. I was doing a residence conference for ASAPs, and someone was like, hey, I'm moving to some city. It was competitive city, New York City, Beverly Hills, pick one of those that's super competitive. And they're like, I'm going to take out a loan for $1 million to just throw that money into marketing over the first 6 months so I can get busy. And someone, fortunately, like yourself, it was a consultant out there, is like, well, what is your plan with this? To just spend that on Google AdWords without building out a CRM, training your staff, actually having follow-up, you're going to owe $1 million and not have any patients. Just putting that in ads without any infrastructure before and after, it's going to be really challenging to succeed. I don't want to say anybody's not going to succeed, but it's going to be challenging.
Yeah, it's not the first place I would go. So regarding marketing channels, what would you say is working the best right now? And what have you tried that has failed? And then what have you tried that's really, is it one thing that's just blowing it out of the water? Or nowadays, is it everything's working a little bit?
I mean, social media is still huge for us. I think that's absolutely huge. One of the things that has exploded for us a little bit is PR. I do think getting print stuff, because I do think AI kind of recognizes it and helps with the AI search to credential you. I think that's been really, really big. What's been interesting for us that the spend for a lead has gone down pretty dramatically is Google AdWords. I'll tell you, until probably over the last year, that was such a small generator of leads for us, because we could get them so much cheaper from other outlets. But the cost there for actually lead appointment for like a mommy makeover and so forth is down to about $150 for us. And so for a Google AdWord to lead, not click, but lead to come to the office at $150 for like a mommy makeover, I think is actually pretty good for us.
No, it is. And are you putting all of your budget into the mommy makeover itself, or are you trying to add other procedures? Like, why is that working for you?
We actually have probably about 6 or 7, and it ranges anywhere from 120 to 180. So I don't know why we've been able to really get it down. I do know, and we do Google. We also do a lot of Meta ads. I'll tell you the other thing that's worked really well with Meta is having a ton of creative. Like on our Meta ads, we have over 40 different creatives that Meta can choose from when it's running the ads. And so I think that's huge. I think if people don't create content and you want to run Meta ads, I think that's really, really challenging.
Well, social media and plastic surgery don't get along at all. And for some reason, Texas, I swear you guys get away with a lot more than some of the other areas. Some of the guys have been shut down overnight saying, what happened? What did I do? Why did I get shut down and nobody else did? It's just such a precarious platform. All of these, they're precarious. You never know what's going to happen. Have you ever had any trouble with ads or with posting on social media platforms?
Definitely with all of them, for sure. We've definitely been put on timeout. We've definitely gotten the message that take this time while you're put on timeout to review our guidelines. Basically, like you're on timeout to think about what you did. So we've had that with TikTok. We've had that with Instagram for sure. We've definitely have had it with Meta. We actually have a couple different business accounts that we can run our ads through. So if this happens, we just switch it to one of the other business accounts. So that keeps us from being held to just one. Switch it from some of our stuff there. I will tell people though, if you're listening, because people get so fixated on like the cost per click, or how much money you're putting into Google, Facebook, Instagram. I'll tell you the number one, the best move that I did to first start our marketing was hiring an inside social media person to video process, do this, and just create content endlessly. So I think that was number one. They would sit in the corner in the OR. They would just video edit it stuff. They would also work on anything else, blogs, other stuff. So it kind of helped us streamline that. And then, making sure that when you're spending this money that you actually have a CRM and you have a process. I've actually taken the time on Smart Chart and mapped out the entire patient journey for our staff. And so we do it for our wellness, for our new consults. And so that, when a lead comes in, what does that first call look like? When do they get a follow-up? So that you have this entire journey mapped out. Because to your point earlier, how do you train somebody if you don't even in your own mind know what do you want? What am I expecting Catherine to do when a lead comes in? And it's so much easier if you're like, hey, here's the journey that we expect that patient to have. The call, gets answered within 15 minutes. And now there's a lot of AI and automations that can send them a message, ping your team, move it to all sorts of ways to answer that, and then follow up with them, automatic reminders. Like in our CRM, it pulls first touch, second touch, third touch. If there's something specific they're waiting, it pulls into that spot. And then when they get set to a doctor, the patient care coordinators, when the appointment gets set, calls them within the first 3 days. We have a 3-date rule, before they come in for an appointment. Some of the stuff you're talking about, pre-qualifying, making sure that they're educated so you don't waste anybody's time, the patients or the surgeons, right? We even do that for our med spa treatments. You're talking about Softwave, Aveva, any laser stuff. Those are big ticket items. And if you're blocking out 2 hours for an injector, I mean, that's a decent amount of time for them.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of the other things you're very good at. You're good at marketing. You obviously have a social media team helping. That's a key piece to this because you should be the front man, but somebody should be making you look good, with the video editing. So you've got that covered. And it looks like you do a lot of work with others who also have a database, and this would help your credibility and authority. You work with some influencers, some other podcasters, some of the vendors. You even have your own podcast. I've noticed, though, actually, you've hung in there. You have over, I think, 100 episodes. I have over 330. And I have to tell you, that's not for the faint of heart. I mean, it becomes like a part-time job. It's like, are you kidding me? So I don't know how you're doing that. But talk about that. How helpful is it to tap into other databases and build your credibility through others?
I think it's huge from a couple things, because especially if you're trying to, it's almost the chicken or the egg first, because like if you want to get PR, if you want to get public, I mean, these reporters and people also want to know that the person they're citing, the person they're interviewing, has some credibility and is going to have some weight stuff. And I'll tell you, be available. If you're reaching out, if a reporter or somebody reaches out, you have to make yourself available. My team knows that they're on my emails, they're on my text, so that if somebody reaches out, they'll respond to them for me. Because if I wait till the end of the surgery day, that has already come and gone from the time they need a response. I think there's a lot of opportunities with the society, because a lot of these big networks are tied to the society, some of these conferences. I'll tell you, going to some of these conferences is a great place to network, because, that's how we met. Sometimes even people that want to be KOLs or speakers stuff, they don't realize now that I've been able to get more involved with the Aesthetic Society. When if I was to be like, hey, Catherine, she'd be a great speaker, most of the time they'll look for a second person who's seen this person speak. And they're like, hey, we only have 18 hours of lecture time when you think about the time of the conference. There may be multiple rooms that kind of separated, but so if this person's giving them half an hour, you're taking already 5% of the whole conference for this person. And this is where speaking at local societies, state societies, abstract are great, because one, it lets you practice, and the way to get better is just doing it. And then someone's like, hey, this kid's pretty good. He's energetic. He had a great topic on this, and you'd be surprised how stuff just slowly builds over. Alex Hermosi has this great kind of Instagram reel that I love, and he talks about when people reach out and like, hey, I want to do something, I want to work with you, and he's like, if you're just calling me and saying, hey, I want to work with you, I want to be a KOL, one of these, you're asking me to do work that I can just keep doing my own life about. Where if you put a presentation together, if you put a reel, use whatever you're trying to do, and you just send it to them like, hey, like, I saw you're trying to do this like for the Aesthetic Society, one of these trends on like, do you like surprises? I like surprises, has been going around, and we made one for the society, and they messaged like, hey, can we reuse this for our thing? And there's a way to get such a national, but nobody asked us to do it, right? Like we just did it. We gave it to them. And so, asking other people to do work, but you'd be surprised, how much you can gain success with these industry, with these other things by just making a little bit of an effort. This, a little bit of effort makes you stand out so much. And you'd be surprised how much just 10% extra effort makes you stand out in this crowded world.
For sure. One other big area is the social proof, and you've had a very good run with getting the patients to brag about you through their own stories and bodies and faces and procedures. And you literally have a patient gallery, and it's the patients who have sent in the selfies. How have you figured that out? Everybody says, oh, my patients are so private. They would never talk about this. And then you have hundreds of them. So how are you doing that when others can't?
I'll tell you, it's just a cultural thing. And the way that we set it up in the office, like it's just, it becomes a non-issue. It's just something that we do. We
it's
actually,
it's systemized.
Yes, it's just a process. We actually have logo bikinis that we give people. And so when they're great, like, hey, we give away our own swag. So then like, if you think about it, you give somebody a hat, you give somebody a sweatshirt, you give them, bikini, like they're excited to show off their gift that they got, they want to brag about it. So people will take selfies in the rooms with their swag. The other thing, if people are, and then we do a monthly giveaway. So, hey, tag us in your selfie and you get entered to win. And then it's twofold, right? We're promoting whatever we're giving away, whether it's, skin tightening, lip filler, soft wave, whatever you want to promote. So it gives you a chance to talk away. We're giving you something, tag us. And so they people do that. The other thing that we've done that has been super successful is every year, we host a patient appreciation pool party. We don't try to sell them anything. It's free to any of our patients. We rent out a hotel pool. Any of our patients can come. They can bring their significant other. And we do that in the afternoon. In the morning, we hire a professional photographer. And over the course of the year, patients that are interested, we'll invite 30, 40 patients. They come to the photo shoot. The professional photographer takes photos. They're all in the logoed bikinis and swimsuits and so forth. They get a copy of it, and we use the rest for our stuff. It has been, now patients ask about it. How do I get invited to the photo shoot? How do I get invited to the pool party? Because then it's almost FOMO, right? People see it online and they want to be a part of it. And if you think about it, even if they don't want to be part of the photo shoot stuff, it's still like super exciting. They want to be invited. They want to be asked. And so such a fun, easy way to get it. Because I love that on our website, it's all patient photos. We don't use any stock photos. We don't do any of that. And I think it helps people be real about it. And when people feel great, I would say confidence is the best contour. When you're excited about how you feel and look, I mean, that stuff just is so contagious.
Well, and you say next to each photo, actual patient. You have to say that, otherwise they're going to think it's still stock. And it's such a good idea. I've had that photo shoot idea. I've had that for a long time, and I didn't think of bikinis because mine was invite your favorite patients, and you're going to do a photo shoot, and it's going to be on a Saturday, and there's definitely going to be wine or mimosas and all of that. And you're going to invite a killer, well-connected hairstylist in the area, and a makeup artist, and a videographer and a photographer, and it's got music. So you have a little DJ, and it was just a fun party. And it's like you're going to have the red carpet, and it was going to be this huge, like I have a PR social media corner, where everyone's doing their selfies. And I don't know if you heard that from me, but you're the only person who ever did it. Like, that's exactly how you do it. You get all your patients to brag about you for you. And look at all of the people who talk about social media content and all the new connections. Like, that is it seems like a lot of work, and it can be. It feels like it's event planning, but well worth a day of that, boy. Kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you. It's honestly, and the team loves it. Everybody gets so excited. And it's great to like sometimes just have something where you're just giving back, like
Yes, you're not selling anything. You're giving back. You're giving them a photo shoot. Like what do you call that when you do a photo shoot? When you get a glam shot.
The glamour shot.
It's like that. Like, most people don't ever glam up, and so you're giving them confidence, and fun and a memory. By the way, your Instagram, you've got 900,000 followers. How did you pull that off?
I'll tell you, we got getting in early was the number one thing. No question, started early. We've definitely grown a lot slower over the last couple years. I think if anybody actually looks at their insights, you'll see that it's not a straight line like this. It actually zigzags up and down for who knows what reason. I'll tell you, one of the things that I'll tell you that I love, and we've taken a lot of stuff, the book Day Trading Attention by Gary Vee, I absolutely love. I think it's a really great starter if you're looking for a place to go. It summarizes a lot of his podcasts. It actually has some worksheets that you can do. We actually did it as a book club for our marketing team, just to help with things. So if anybody's listening, great place to at least get started with some good information. Some of the things I'll tell you is you get so caught up in things being perfect. Just posting and making, I think is super helpful. There's videos that have gotten, 1 million views, and I wouldn't have probably put in the top 100 videos that I've made. There's other stuff that I thought was going to be fantastic. I was so up on it, and it was probably one of the worst ones. Honestly, some of our over edited stuff or professionally paid for has done really poorly compared to other things that I've done on that. But you just don't know unless you keep trying. I also subscribe to Adam. What's his last name? The CEO of Instagram. If you subscribe to his channel, he'll actually, when he comes up with updates, it'll DM you. So you can kind of see new things or other stuff they're recommending on Instagram. I think that's another nice way to kind of keep up with new features, new things without having to do a lot of homework all the time.
Nice. We're getting close to the end here. Tell me a crazy patient or staff story you care to share.
Oh, I'll tell you, just talking about social media, one of our top injectors actually had DM'd us for an influencer collab. And we ended up doing an influencer collab, and turned out she was a OB nurse. And, it was like, and she was really personable and so forth. And so I was like, would you like to do some social media stuff for us? And this is when I was starting out, so we didn't have a ton of extra money. And so I was like, and she was like, oh yeah, I'll work a few hours. I do my 3 12-hour shifts in the hospital. I'll work 2 days for you guys. So I was like, okay, cool. And she already was an influencer and doing mom stuff things. And then was so good that at some point, then was like, hey, well, what if I become a nurse here? And so it was super interesting that she went from sliding into our DMs, being an influencer for us, doing our social media to now one of our top injectors in our practice. And so just kind of the power of social media, how crazy some of that stuff just evolves over time. And honestly, I think people don't realize how much of a true connection people make. It used to be such a black box to plastic surgery and kind of what this is. Social media has really leveled the playing field. Before social media, the massive practices that could spend tons of money on Google AdWords and other things, it was hard to compete. I think it was a lot longer to build out some of these practices. I think with pure grit, effort, and time, you can do this. I always tell our team, if you're not busy, then you got time. If you got time, you can be making content, and so if you're saying you're not busy enough, then you got plenty of time. You should be making content. You should be getting the word out. The other thing that I would say that I think fell off a little bit with reviews, just for lasting for people, is reviews. I think people for a while with social media kind of maybe didn't value sending out reviews, asking a patient for reviews. I think those have become super, super important in the AI. They were always super important, but I think we got a little fat and happy with social media of being the only driver for patients.
Oh, I know many younger surgeons, they're living off of the Google reviews, and that is their SEO strategy. Mm-hmm. They didn't put in a whole bunch of money every month with an SEO company. They're banking on the reviews, and so far it's paying off. Especially if are you starting to hear the patients say, "I heard about you through ChatGPT"?
Oh yeah, for sure.
A lot more now, sure. And you look at Chat and you say, "Wait a second, it's kind of the new Google, but they have different rules, but it's still the same concept." who else says you're great? Not you, but who else says you're great? And that's the game. So congratulations, you're just crushing it. I mean, good for you. Any like words of wisdom to others who are just stuck or uncertain about what's going on in the world and they're just not sure about, business or marketing? Any words of wisdom?
I mean, number one, if you think things are hard, you're not alone. It's hard for everyone, so DM me, happy to chat with you guys for sure if anybody's listening, because it's really hard. It's really nice to have someone to bounce ideas. I definitely would try and find a core group of people that you trust to kind of be able to talk things through, because sometimes you are having office issues. You don't maybe want to discuss it in the office with some of your staff or things, especially when you're small. And so I think it's really, really helpful sometimes to get an outside perspective, because sometimes it's easier for someone who's not so emotionally tied to do that. I think that's really huge. I do think the more you can, one, marketing content is king, and then two, building the foundation of your practice, the structure, the setup. I would. I do love the book Traction. If people were going to do some homework, I think filling out some of their worksheets is huge, because if you don't even know what your core values are, if you don't know what your 1, 3, 5-year goals are, how's anyone else in the practice going to follow your lead if they don't even know? You just jumped in the car and you're just like, I just stepped on the gas as fast as possible, hoping to go somewhere, and I think that's challenging. And I'll tell you, I usually update it when I give some presentations on business. It's sometimes humbling to look at what my goals were and where we're at, and other times you're like, you know what, we're not doing so bad. We actually made most of these. So I think those are the big ones.
Nice, thank you so much. Everyone, that's going to wrap it up for us today. If you would so kindly leave me a review and subscribe to Beauty and the Biz podcast so you don't miss any episodes that come out weekly. And if you've got any questions or feedback for me, please leave them on my website at catherinemaley.com. By the way, the doctor's website is austinplasticsurgeon.com, and his Instagram is also austinplasticsurgeon.com. And then you can also DM me on Instagram if you care to, and that is Catherine Maley, MBA. And with that, thank you so much. We'll talk again soon.
The fastest way to success is to model other successful surgeons who have what you want, but you can only see their results, not the path they took to get there. So you continue to jump from one thing to another, hoping to find something that will work for you too. But it rarely does. So try this shortcut instead. It's guaranteed to move you forward. I compiled my intellectual property to grow cosmetic revenues, everything I've gleaned over the years, into one playbook of the most successful practices and what they do to win. Go to cosmeticpracticevault.com and let's grow your cosmetic revenues.